Good evening, my dear students and friends. Myself, Dr. Ravikant Pathak, and I'm going to start your video lecture class. In the last video lecture, we have discussed about the transport of gases and different respiratory pigments. And in this video lecture, we will talk about the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve and pulmonary capacities and pulmonary volume. So, in the sequence of this chapter, I'm going to start new topic, and the name of topic is the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve, or simply you can say oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. Before I am going to discuss oxyhemoglobin OHDC, oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, we will talk about the hemoglobin. What is the hemoglobin? So hemoglobin is the pigment which is considered which have ability to carrier of the oxygen molecules. And in the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, we will see how the binding affinity with the oxygen molecules enhances or decreases. We will see here which factor affect the binding of oxygen molecule with the hemoglobin molecules. We will see here. First of all, they have given the first sentence. That means this curve is plotted between partial pressure of oxygen and percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen molecules. It means here you can say there is the two axis. One is the x-axis, another is the y-axis. X-axis represents the partial pressure of the oxygen molecule. Here they represents the partial pressure of oxygen molecule, and y-axis it represents the binding affinity, that means percentage of saturation of the hemoglobin with the oxygen molecules. And here if you see, so there sigmoid shape curve generally obtained when binding with the hemoglobin oxygen molecules takes place. So this generally representing, this curve is plotted between the partial pressure of oxygen and percentage saturation of the hemoglobin with oxygen molecules. It is sigmoid shape, I had already discussed. And if you'll see, so in this graph, so one position which is known as the P50. So this position which is known as the P50. What is the P50? Here you can say it is defined as the partial pressure of oxygen at which half of hemoglobin molecule saturated. It means hemoglobin, they have the some particular site which is known as the active site, and these active site bind with these active site half, sorry, not completely half. So half binded with the at P50 value, means at the P50 the oxygen molecules, half of the active site occupied this oxygen molecules. In oxygenated blood, hemoglobin is 97% saturated with the oxygen, in which partial pressure of oxygen is the 100 mmHg. If we're saying the partial pressure of the 100 mmHg, so that time 97% of the oxygen bind with the hemoglobin, 97%. And if the partial pressure of oxygen molecules is the 40 mmHg, so that means hemoglobin only the 75% saturated with the oxygen molecules. So here 75% bind with the oxygen molecules, and so in a single circulation our hemoglobin release the 20 to 25% oxygen into the tissue. So this have given. Now 100 ml of the blood release 5 ml oxygen to the tissue fluid. So this is generally representing. Now we will see the next what it have given about the different factors or different criteria of the hemoglobin. So now here, this is the graph which representing the binding affinity with the oxygen molecules. So there is the three different graphs showing. First you will see, so one is the above, that is the here like that, and another is the in between of two, and lower like this. If you'll see in between, so in between this is the ideal. So between this is the ideal uh, graph or ideal binding affinity with the oxygen and hemoglobin molecule show, and this form the sigmoid shape curve. You'll see, so their curve is the sigmoid shape. Okay, and before I'm going to discuss this OHDC, you should to know four factor which affects to oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. What is the four factor? Here you can see first is the pH, second is the temperature, and third is the first is the pH, second is the temperature, and third most, that means 2,3 DPG. DPG previously it is called the DPG, but now it is called the 2,3 bisphosphoglycerate, and one more also, that is the CO2 concentration. So these four factor effect, or they generally affect the binding affinity with the oxygen with hemoglobin molecules. And you should to learn when this oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve shift towards the right hand side, then binding affinity decreases, means unloading of the oxygen molecules increases. And when this ideal graph shifted towards the left hand side, so it represents the strong binding affinity with the oxygen molecules. So simply you can say loading of oxygen molecule increases. So this is the point you should to learn. Now I'm going to describe, and if you see, in case of the when this plot or this graph shift towards the right hand side, how they shift? It will decrease the pH. It will decrease the pH, so then it will shift towards the right. Everything will increase. It means you can say temperature increase, 2,3 BPG increase, CO2 concentration increase, except pH. Except pH means pH, when pH decrease, the hemoglobin means OHDC curve, it shifted towards the right hand side. It means they indicating the low binding affinity with the oxygen and hemoglobin molecules. And just inverse in case of the hemoglobin dissociation curve, everything you will decrease, like like CO2 concentration decrease, 2,3 BPG concentration decrease, and the temperature decrease, except pH should increase. Here you can say except pH increase. So here when pH increase, and everything should decrease, so they it favors to the movement of the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve towards the left hand side, means there is the strong binding affinity with the oxygen molecules takes place. So this is the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve which represent this value. And one thing I have also so one P50 represents the, suppose that this is the hemoglobin molecules, and we know that is that quaternary structure. So this is your this is the active site of the hemoglobin molecule. So this 50% active site occupied with the oxygen molecules, and this is called the P50. So P50 is the value where the 50% of active sites of the hemoglobin molecules occupied with the oxygen. So this is the hemoglobin oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve, which represents the binding affinity with the oxygen molecules. And the four factor which generally affect, I had already told, so you should to learn it. Now here you can say that which I already described in that slide, it is the generally explaining. So here you can say if the body temperature increases, I had already told body temperature increases, CO2 concentration increases, pH decreases. So this is the very important way. Everything is increasing except the pH. Acidity increases, 2,3 DPG, 2,3 BPG concentration increases. Everything should increase except the pH decrease. It favors to shift of the this oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve shift towards the right hand side, and if it shifts towards the right hand side means the binding affinity decreases. So that means they have been, so oxygen dissociation curve means more dissociation of oxyhemoglobin takes place. It means simply you can say when it will shift towards the right hand side, the binding affinity decreases. Next, it have been the oxygen dissociation curve of the myoglobin. If you'll see the difference, we will see later the difference between myoglobin and hemoglobin. So here it is saying in case of the myoglobin, it is formed the hyperbolic curve with the oxygen molecule. And in case of the hemoglobin, it is the carrier of oxygen molecule. But here myoglobin is the storage of oxygen in the muscle. So this is represents. Now we will see the here they have given the Bohr effect. What is the Bohr effect? This generally describes the CO2 concentration reactant. So what is the effect of CO2? Here you can see. In the active tissue, there is increased concentration of CO2, which also increases the hydrogen ion concentration. And when hydrogen ion concentration increases, CO2 react with water to form the carbonic acid. So this is called the Bohr effect. Okay. And Bohr effect, what is the role of Bohr effect? Here they have given. Bohr effect plays a crucial role in enhancing the release of oxygen in the tissue. That means unloading of the oxygen molecule inside the tissue. And here they have given both these factors induce the oxyhemoglobin to give up more oxygen. Means oxyhemoglobin, they release the much oxygen molecules. And this phenomenon is also called the Bohr effect or Bohr shift in 1904, discovered by the scientist Bohr. Now this is the Bohr effect, and they are related to the concentration when increased. So they react with the water, they form the bicarbonic acid, and when they form carbonic acid, we know that means pH will decrease. pH will decrease, more maximum unloading takes place. So this is the called Bohr effect. Now we will see the difference between hemoglobin and myoglobin. So this is the very important, and you can easily understand. So hemoglobin, it is the oxygen carrier molecule, and myoglobin, it is the store oxygen inside the muscles. Second, it is present in the RBC. It is present in the RBC, and it is present in the muscle cells, and bone marrow they also have. Another one, it consists of the four polypeptide. They have the two, that is the homotetramer. Two, not homo, heterotetramer, 2 alpha, 2 beta. And here it is consist of the single polypeptide chain. This is of the single polypeptide chain, and their molecular weight here 5,400 molecular weight, and here 1,600 molecular weight. It shows the Bohr effect, and such type of effect generally not observed in case of the myoglobin. And myoglobin form the hyperbolic curve, and hemoglobin form the sigmoid curve. So this is the difference between hemoglobin and myoglobin. Now we will see next topic second, and the name of topic is the pulmonary air volume and pulmonary capacity. What is the pulmonary volume, or simply you can say lung volume? The quantities of air lungs can receive, hold or expel under different conditions are called the pulmonary or lung volume. Simply you can say in inspiration and expiration under the different condition, maybe you are doing any works or sitting, or after means anything you are doing, so that is the end different conditions. So this is called the pulmonary volume or lung volume. And what is the pulmonary capacity? So pulmonary capacity is the combination of, they have given pulmonary capacity refers to the combination of two or more pulmonary volumes, so that is called the pulmonary capacities. And here spirometry is the process of recording the changes in the volume of air into the out of lungs, and the instrument used for this purpose is called the spirometer. With the spirometer we generally record the volume of air into, means how many volume of air enters into your lungs, and how many airs comes outside the lungs. So this generally measured by the spirometer, and observed or record on the spirometry. And they form a special graph which is known as the spirogram. And what it represent, it's showing the changes in the pulmonary volume and pulmonary capacities under the different condition. Means under the different condition, this spirogram generally represents the pulmonary volume and pulmonary capacities. So now we will see first of all about the pulmonary volume. So pulmonary volume, there is the four different types: inspiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, and expiratory reserve volume, residual volume. So we will see one by one. Now we are going to discuss tidal volume. It is the volume of air inspired or expired, both which uh, both with each normal breath, means that is the effortless, means during the normal breath. So inspired and expired air, this is called the tidal volume. And the value of tidal volume, this is the 500 ml. And in your NEET exam, it generally ask only the value, not ask the definition like that. Okay. So here they have given average adult man. Average adult man, effortless means normal breathing, expiration and inspiration. So the volume which inhale are expired. So that is the volume, and this is known as the tidal volume. And in case of the tidal volume, so 350 is the fresh air. So 350 is the fresh air which reach into the lungs, and remaining air generally the trapped by the respiratory tract, trapped by the respiratory tract from nasal chambers to the terminal bronchioles, and this is called the anatomical dead space or dead space volume. So dead space volume means 150, which is not reach up to the lungs. It generally trapped or consumed by the is consumed by the respiratory tract from nasal chamber to terminal bronchiole. And now this physiological dead space also includes the anatomical dead space and the space in non-functional alveoli. This is also called the space in non-functional alveoli. Why? Because it is not useful for the gaseous exchange process, and no exchange occur in the dead space. Means 150 ml of the volume in case of the tidal volume. So this is not used, and this is called the dead space volume. 350 actual tidal volume, so it have given. Now next is the, it is saying during exercise tidal volume may be increased. So during exercise the tidal increase how many times? It may be increased 4 to 10 times higher than normal. So normal we have to see in like 500 ml, but during the exercise it will become the 5000 ml. It will become the 5000 ml value. So now we will see the next, that is the inspiratory reserve volume. So here they have given the inspiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory reserve volume means here they have a volume of air which inspired forceful beyond the tidal volume. We have to see in tidal volume, that is the effortless. After that forceful, here it is saying about the forceful beyond the tidal volume, and the value is the 3000 ml of the inspiratory. Expiratory reserve volume ERV, their value is the 1100 ml. That means volume of air which expired forcefully beyond the tidal volume. And residual volume RV, volume of air which always remain in the lungs after forceful, means after the forceful expiration some volume present inside the lungs, and this is called the residual volume, and the value of residual volume is the 1200 ml. So this is the volume, and now we will talk about the capacities, that is pulmonary capacities or lung capacities. And I had already told the combination of the volume is called the pulmonary capacities or lung capacities. So firstly we will see the inspiratory capacity. Inspiratory capacity means when the tidal volume and inspiratory reserve volume, the summation of tidal volume and inspiratory reserve volume, it is called the inspiratory capacity. So here they have given the 3000 inspiratory reserve volume, 5000 tidal volume. Both you will combine, they will get, you will get the inspiratory capacity value. Next one, functional residual volume. Functional residual capacity, and what is the volume of air that will remain in the lungs after a normal expiration, and this includes the expiratory reserve volume, residual volume. Expiratory reserve volume 1100, residual volume 1200. So total 2300 ml FRC. So FRC, that is the functional residual capacity. Last one, another one also they have given the vital capacity of lungs. We see that is the vital capacity of lungs. So volume of air which expired forcefully. Here saying expired forcefully. Here in case of the FRC, that is the remain after normal expiration. But here saying that is the volume of air which expired forcefully after the forceful expiration. Sorry, forceful inspiration. This is called the vital capacity. And vital capacity means inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, and tidal volume, means summation of the three value, IRV, ERV, and tidal volume. So then you will get the 3000 inspiratory, 1100 expiratory reserve volume, and 500 the tidal volume. So combine, it will combine, so then you will get the 4600 ml vital capacity. And after that you will see the total lung capacity, so TLC, that is the total lung capacity. Here you can see this is the total lung capacity, and total lung capacity means combination of the every volume is IRB, ERB, FRC, TB, everything will combine. So here they have given, so vital capacity plus residual volume. So we know very well. So here they have given the vital capacity, which is the value 4600, and residual volume, that is the 1200 ml. So total we will get the 5800 ml. Means our total lung capacity we can expire or inspire up to the 6000 ml volume of the air. So this is called the total lung capacity. Now we will see the different spirogram and try to understand here. First of all, they have given the value, and this will show the tidal volume. So tidal volume value they have given like this. Tidal volume value, you know very well, 500 ml. So here, from here to here, it have the 500 ml. After that, inspiratory capacity. So capacity we will discuss later. Firstly, we will see the volume. Here they have given the residual volume. Residual volume is the 1200 ml. So residual volume is the 1200 ml. From here to here you can see, from here, that means 1000, and here this is the value of 1000. So 1000 plus 200. So total 1200 ml is the uh, residual volume, that you can say this is the residual volume. After that, expiratory reserve volume, their value is the 1100. So here it means from this is the from here they have given the 2000. So this value you can say this is called the expiratory reserve volume, and their value is the 1100 ml. And one more also, that means functional residual capacity. So FRC we will see later, and inspiratory reserve volume. So these have given inspiratory reserve volume. The inspiratory reserve volume, their value is the 3000 ml. This is the 3000 ml. And now they have given the inspiratory capacity, means combination of the tidal volume. So tidal volume plus inspiratory. So they have given the different value. And here vital capacity, in which you will combine the everything. Everything means here they have given the expiratory reserve volume and tidal volume also you will combine, and then inspiratory reserve volume, then you will get the vital capacity. When vital capacity plus functional residual capacity, functional residual capacity, functional residual capacity or residual volume, simply you can say here you will combine the residual volume, then you will get the TLC, total lung capacity, means vital capacity plus residual volume you will combine, they will get that 15,800 ml, and this is called the TLC. So now this is the spirogram, and I think you are everyone understanding, and this is the very simple explanation. And now I'm going to finish your class, and thank you for everyone, and everyone should subscribe, share my channel, and hit the bell icon for regular updates. So thank you again.